choice, no, that we can access, no, from the supermarkets and our establishments, no. And I hope that you'll be able to participate in our question and answer later on. Maybe you have some clarifications. Please use this opportunity to ask from PCEPSDI. Sila po ang ating expert, no, pagdating po dito sa program. So thank you very much for joining us this morning. Thank you, Sir June. Thank you, PCEPSDI, at maraming salamat.
Thank you for that wonderful opening remarks, Ma'am Camille. Moving to our main part of our program, our speaker for today graduated Bachelor of Science in Forestry from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, with a distinguished UPLD Gold Medal Leadership Award in 1996. A licensed forester and an environmentalist, he is the country's representative to the Global Ecolabeling Network, or GEN. In addition, he sits in an interagency technical working group on ecotourism and sustainable tourism. Before PCEPSDI, he worked as the Deputy Executive Director of the Clean and Green Foundation, Incorporated, under its board chairperson, former First Lady Amelita M. Ramos. Among the positions and projects he handled were the Trees for Life and Gift of Trees projects, the management of Mini Botanical Garden, Orchidarium, and Butterfly Pavilion, and the Metro Green Plan Urban Greening Project. Currently, he is the President and Executive Director of the Philippine Center for Environmental Protection and Sustainable Development, or PCEPSDI. Let us give our warm welcome to Mr. June M. Alvarez. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Alex. Good morning, Ms. Camille. And of course, to our beloved Undersecretary Ruth Castello. First and foremost, thank you very much for inviting PCEPSDI for sharing our program, primarily the National Eco-Labeling Program Green Choice Philippines. And I'll take this opportunity also to extend and introduce our organization more than just the eco-labeling. So should I? Where's our presentation? Okay, so Green Choice Philippines, as I understood it, that this session is more of promoting sustainable consumption and production in the country. And Green Choice is actually one of the key programs in the country that promotes sustainable consumption and production. So with that, let me share you a little bit of what we are doing under the Green Choice Philippines. Next slide, please. So this is the background of this is the outline of my presentation. A little bit on background on sustainable consumption and production. Perhaps you have gone through with the 2 consecutive sessions already on this. I will just barely touch on this. Green products and eco-labeling. What makes the green products green, so to speak, and what is the use of eco-labeling. And then we will introduce to you the National Eco-Labeling Program Green Choice Philippines. As we all know that not all eco-labeling are created equal. So with that, allow me first to introduce to you the concept of, next slide please, the concept of 4 laws of ecology. This is quite fundamental that we may actually use it not only in the field of environment but in our daily lives. So first is everything is connected to everything else. Lahat ng bagay ay magkakaugnay, no? As we move and as we flush our toilet in our toilet, it will have an effect to our rivers and to our sea. As we eat our food and as we take a bath on a daily basis, these are the basic things that could create an impact to our environment. So next please. Everything must go somewhere else. So yung basic principle ng law of thermodynamics, energy is neither created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form into another. So if we burn the garbage, nawala ba siya? Definitely hindi, no? Na-transform lang siya into other form. In the same manner that the water, when you subject it into a lower temperature, it freeze and it become an ice. And then when you subject it into heat, it becomes it gets back to its original position, and eventually it will evaporate, and then it will become a cloud, and then it will become the rain, so to speak. So everything must go somewhere else. Next, please. So nature knows best. So si Mother Nature daw, alam niya kung ano yung best sa kanya, no? And if somehow we try to touch any part of the nature and we some sort of abuse it, so mag-a-adjust si Mother Nature at pwedeng magkaroon ng mga disaster and all that stuff. So, and finally, the last laws of ecology is actually there's no such thing as free lunch. So ibig sabihin nito, if we touch something that on the nature, hindi yan libre, no? At the end of the day, we have to pay for it, and it may not be our generation. It will be the future generation that should pay for it. In other words, we must be responsible of using or utilizing the existing resources, as we are just a steward of this God's creation, and we must need to actually transfer it in our future generation that they could also enjoy the same thing. So these 4 laws of ecology in one way or another can be applied in sustainable consumption and production, as well as in our discussion today. Next slide, please. So as we all know that environmental issues now these days are becoming more complicated, no? So in the past, ang issue lang ay protection ng wildlife, cutting of trees, soil erosion. Now this cutting of trees becoming more complicated, like deforestation and somehow biodiversity loss, and then of course climate change, like for instance in biodiversity loss, scientists said that we already attained the point of no return. So 2016 na-attain na natin yung point of no return sa biodiversity loss. As you will notice, left and right ang destruction ng ating natural resources, and it goes back to the fundamental issue of everybody has the right of existence, hindi lang human being, kasi very anthropocentric ang humanity, the way we live. Now these days we always look at the benefits only for the people. We don't even care of other living organisms like animals, plants, and other God's creation. In the same manner that the climate change, as we all know, more than just heating the temperature in the atmosphere, it created a lot of impacts in our environment, to include among others the disaster, typhoon, drought, that's connected to famine, at the same time to food security and all that stuff. So in other words, as I've said, everything is connected to everything else. So itong environmental issues becoming more complicated, and it requires also a more systematic and challenging solution as well, wherein the Green Choice Philippines is one of the tools that can actually contribute to the mitigation and of this climate change and biodiversity loss. Next slide, please. So as I've said, it can be summarized into 5 environmental challenges. One is systematic buildup of dispersed matter mined from the earth crust. As we all know that basic principle, energy is neither created nor destroyed. All the things that we use in our daily lives, actually galing yan lahat sa earth crust, and these resources converted into material that's for human being, and eventually it became garbage as well. So nasisira yan, and then eventually ayan, babalik siya sa environment in the form of garbage. Next slide, please. So systematic buildup of persistent compound made by humans, in the same manner that the production and the day-to-day livings, like the use of vehicle, It emits sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxide, and it pollutes our air. And here in Metro Manila alone, actually, it goes beyond the what is being required in terms of air ambient, the POPs, the pollutants, organic, the persistent organic pollution, so to speak. So next please. So systematic deteriorations of nature's capacity for renewal. Case in point that the different rivers in the country now these days, actually there are about 421 rivers in the country, and 50 of those are biologically dead. And one of the most famous is actually the Pasig River. In the same manner that the Pampangas River and the Tulyahan rivers. These rivers are biologically dead and could actually take for quite some time to be on its vital state. So technically speaking, sabi nga, nature knows best. Kaya nilang mag-rehabilitate on their own, but because of human-induced activities, so this natural environment like the rivers and our mountains could not recuperate on the human pressure that's being done in their environment. Next, please. So, of course, as we all know now these days, ito yung buzzword ng environmental advocacy, climate change, and global warming. And just to illustrate you this, what will be the impact on this on our daily lives? It's not just simply as changing the temperature, as I've said a while ago. So it's more of complicated environmental issues, like it's connected with the floods, with the drought, and then food security issue. And then probably this COVID pandemic probably is an impact of climate change that, as we all know, virus is either a living or non-living things, but because of its change on the environment and temperature in particular, maybe this virus became active again. So next, please. So basically, greenhouse, gases effect, or GHG, they call it the GHG. So ito yung nangyayari sa atin, ang ating Earth ay nababalot ng greenhouse gases. So technically speaking, these greenhouse gases in effect ay okay sana ito, provided that it's balanced. But because of human-induced activity, ang concentration primarily ng carbon dioxide into the atmosphere became very heavy, and that yung natatrap yung ating ultraviolet rays, and as it bounced back to the atmosphere in the form of infrared rays, hindi na siya makawala doon sa GHG, sa greenhouse, and nagkakaroon ng in and out ng bounce backing ng infrared rays, and that becomes the earth of the temperature become warm, and because it's warm, it's actually irregular. Next, please. So based on a study for such hundreds of years ago, the consistency of carbon dioxide emission into the atmosphere is quite normal. It was only in 1950 and up to our generation that it became very high in terms, very logarithmic, accelerating yung trend, at very steep because of the human-induced activity. So masyadong mataas ang because of the Industrial Revolution, and everything is guided by principle of business and profit without taking care of the environment. So nag-increase ang concentration ng CO2. So next slide, please. So just to simulate you, medyo mahirap kasing maintindihan what it looks like, Ito yung status nung 1950, the red or the orange actually is the concentration of the CO2. Next slide, please. So it was in just almost 3 decades, nag-i-increase yung concentration. Next slide, please. So this is the trajectory, and it was predicted by scientists around the world that it's happening right now. Next, please. 1998, 2016, next. 2028, if you notice, the SDG Sustainable Development Goal, they targeted it by 2030 because they feel that it might be the point of no return for climate change, 2030. Next, please. 2040, it became very worse. If business as usual, the way we produce and the way we consume. Next, please. 2052, next. 2070, next, and 21st century. So in other words, there's no such thing as sustainable development if we do it business as usual. Okay, so next, please. So in the same manner that our population is continuously growing, we're at a rate of something like 7.7 billion. And by 2050, we will be reaching 9.5 billion. Based on the carrying capacity of the Earth and based on a study, the Earth could only feed up to 10 billion population. Ano? So in-expect nila kung ganyan pa rin ang world population natin, it might reach by 21st century of 11 billion. So but the only the carrying capacity of the Earth can only feed 10 billion population. Next, please. So and this population, of course, could actually create an enormous impact in terms of carbon emission generation. Then there will be out of 7 or 7.7, or I would say 9.9 billion population by 2050, 3 billion population will become more affluent and a little bit, magkakaroon ng mga middle class by 2030. And that is tantamount to say that there will be a 60% damage in the ecosystem by emitting 140 billion tons of carbon dioxide. And that will have an increase of 3 degrees Celsius. Ano ba yung impact ng 3 degrees Celsius? In fact, ang ine-aim ng ating mga scientists now these days, sana ma-maintain natin ang 1.5 degrees Celsius. If we reach a 3 degrees Celsius increase of the temperature, yung nakita nating simulation kanina, ganun ang mangyayari sa atin. There will be more actually desertification of our forest. There will be more, typhoon, floods, natural disaster that will happen on the earth. And that is tantamount to say that there will be, food security issue, famine, and so on and so forth. So next, please. So just to give you a concept of, ecological footprint and biocapacity. Ano ba itong ecological footprint na to? This is a measure of how much biologically productive land and sea are an individual population or actively required to produce all the resources it consumes and to absorb its waste. Meaning ito yung footprint natin, ano? Ito yung as an individual, bawat tao meron tayong nagagastos na tubig, na lupa, na nai-emit na maduming hangin sa air, and at the same time naibibigay nating pollution sa ating mga dagat, kumakain tayo ng mga isda, hayop, etc. So ito yung tinatawag nating ecological footprint. And this can be measured in terms of per hectare per capita. No? So on the other side of the equation, there's the biocapacity. Ito naman yung capacity and ability of an ecosystem to regenerate useful biological resources and absorb waste generated by human such as carbon dioxide emission from the fossil fuel. Ito naman yung tinatawag natin na carrying capacity ng ating ecosystem o ng ating mundo o ng ating lugar. Ano? So just to simulate you, next slide please. So at the rate things is going on, ang ating ecological footprint ng 7.7 billion population sa buong mundo ay 1.7 Earth, ano? alam naman natin na ang Earth iisa lang naman. Pero at the ratings is going on, parang doble, 2 times ang the way we consume our natural resources o yung biocapacity. So next slide please. So the trajectory, business as usual, by end of 2050, we will be needing more Earths or 3 Earths. Kaya siguro yung US dinidiscover na yung ibang planeta. Pwede tayong mabuhay doon like Mars. So the challenge for sustainable consumption and production is to bring back the trajectory of consumption and production by under its biocapacity ng Earth. Maging isa sana. Yun ngayon yung hinahabol. Yan yung scenario. Next slide please. So, and this can be connected, and they concluded that the major cause of continued deterioration of the global environment is the unsustainable pattern of production and consumption. Next please. So, and in the same manner, it's actually basic on products and environmental impacts. Lahat naman kasi ng produkto, kahit nga tubig, pag ininom mo yan, may environmental impact yan. So looking at the product life cycle, so ang mga environmental impacts can be connected in raw material extraction like mining, logging, water abstraction, energy generation. So fossil fuel yan. And then another environmental impact is the utilization of this product. So much utilization during the manufacturing leading to emission, wastewater, and solid waste generation. And then because this product needs to be distributed, kailangan i-transport from one region to another. Yung produktong made in China, made in Europe, pupunta sa Pilipinas, yung sa Pilipinas pupunta sa ibang bansa, and that creates, it needs transportation, and our basic transportation generates fossil fuel abstraction, and it emits carbon dioxide emission. And then of course, after na gamitin natin itong mga produkto na ito, itatapon natin yan o hahayaan natin yan. Case in point, tingnan nyo yung sa bahay nyo, ilang mga gamit na damit, mga lumang electronic equipment, mga appliances, lahat-lahat ang hindi nyo na ginagamit, itatapon nyo yan. Saan kaya napupunta yan? Of course, kay Mother Nature yan. I-absorb ni Mother Nature. Normally, nandyan yan sa dagat, nandyan yan sa lupa, etc. etc. So ito yung related environmental impacts ng mga produkto at serbisyo kaugnay ng environmental impacts. And these are all connected to unsustainable pattern of consumption and production. Okay? So next slide, please. So that's why they promote sustainable consumption as a framework for achieving sustainability. And SCP is actually not necessarily consuming less, but it is about doing more and better with less. Meaning, if we use the natural resources that we have now these days, sana kakaunti ang emission, sana we consider the carrying capacity so that the future generation will also the same, enjoy the same thing. So next slide, please. So the sustainable consumption and production pattern aims to not just only reverse the trend. Kasi ganito ang nangyayari ngayon, as we improve our quality of life and economic development ng each and every country at the expense of the environmental impact, because we focus on the production. So next. So as we focus on the production, nung una, tinitingnan lang nila, kailangan huwag mag-pollute ang mga factory. So hindi pala enough yon kasi walang driving force. And the driving force aim also to influence the consumer. Next slide, please. So these changes of production and consumption pattern actually that defines the sustainable development. Kasi ang magdadrive sa production ng industry ay ang consumption. If you demand for green products or environmentally friendly or less stress to the environment products and services, definitely the businesses will follow through. So next. So the sustainable consumption and production actually aims to take a look at the lifestyle of our population, resource efficiency, and then of course less pollution intensity. Kasi kung mapapansin nyo, ang trajectory, patuloy na dadami ang population, tapos maraming gustong yumaman. Siyempre, maraming gustong yumaman, tataas ang lifestyle. Pag tumaas ang lifestyle, tataas din ang paggamit ng resources sa environment. And then pag tumaas ang paggamit sa resource environment, magkakaroon din ng maraming garbage, maraming pollution, etc. At there you are. Ang impact ay ang climate change, biodiversity, human health, poverty, and so on and so forth. So the sustainable consumption and production aims to somehow mitigate the impact of these consumption and production drivers by influencing the lifestyle, the resource intensity, and the pollution intensity. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so these are some of the selected tools and practices ng sustainable consumption and production. Unfortunately, I won't be able to discuss all of these things, but we will focus on eco-labeling and Green Choice Philippines. Next, please. So let me just ask you, what are green products? If you want to get your move and be part of the advocacy, and you want to contribute to the sustainable consumption and production pattern, so how do you do that? So ang tanong is, bibili ka ng green products. Ang tanong, ano ang green products? So what makes it green? Next, please. What makes product greener than others? So ito bang mga nabibili natin? If you notice sa market, left and right ang claim ng environmental preparedness ng kanilang mga produkto. Next, please. So you need to find a proof of claims of this product. Next. And then it has to have a certified, independent third-party claim, so to speak. So that makes it, more credible. So next slide, please. So defining green, of course, the idea is that it must be a greener than conventional product. In other words, to some extent, it should be recyclable, low pollution, resource saving. Yung claim must be based on life cycle consideration, and there will be a net environmental benefit. When we say net environmental benefit, ibig sabihin nito, ang produkto ay marami kasing produkto katulad ng recycled paper products. Somehow, sasabihin ng company, yung aming tissue paper o aming paper made from 100% recyclable. That's good. Nice to hear. Pero syempre, dahil recycled paper yung ginamit niya, gumamit naman siya ng maraming tubig, gumamit siya ng maraming kuryente para linisin niya yon. So, yung environmental aspects nung kanyang produkto na transfer lang from raw materials, napunta ngayon ang impact niya sa production, hindi doon sa raw materials. Yung claim niya na recycled content ang kanyang product ay nasa raw materials. Tama naman yon. Naggamit siya ng recycle. Pero gumamit din siya ng maraming energy, gumamit siya ng maraming water. Case in point, ang water natin, meron tayong scarcity of water, fresh water in the world. So in the same manner that energy is connected to the climate change, primarily because of the CO2 emission of the fossil fuel. So yun yung sinasabi natin. There must be a net environmental benefit. Next, please. So these are some of the, being green of a product. You may also take a look at the product-specific attribute, like yung produkto ba may recycled content, yung lalo na sa mga electrical and electronic products, energy efficient ba siya, or water efficient, bio-based. Pag sinabing bio-based, biodegradable, ano ba yung materials niya, hindi ba gumagamit ng mga hazardous chemical, low toxicity, durable yung product. Dapat may mga product specific claim na. Pag sinabi kasing durable, it actually makes the product long and reduce the extraction of the materials o natural resources. low volatile organic compound, ito yung mga lalo na itong mga paint na ginagamit natin. BOC has something to do with our health, yung mga reproductive health natin na apektuhan nito, no? And of course yung mga pag-iisip ng mga tao primarily, marami sa ating mga anak now these days, if you notice, may mga konting anxiety, disparity sa pag-iisip because of the impact of these chemicals. Maraming chemicals na nakaka-affect diyan. Renewable resources, yun bang materials na ginamit doon ay renewable resources? Ibig sabihin hindi ba siya nauubos? Sustainable packaging, yung bang as we all know na ang mga katubigan natin niya o karagatan natin ngayon punong-puno ng marine plastics o basura, and based on a study, the food that we eat from the seas and even the water, meron ng mga microplastics, so because of the packaging na hindi nabubulok and yet na disintegrate lang and nakakain din natin. So the product must also be upgradable in such a way na yung produkto natin, lalo na ang application nito sa mga electronic equipment, yung mga computers, dapat na upgrade naman siya, no? And then may resource conservation among others. Next please. So green products or green services may also be taking a look at the process-specific attribute. Paano ba ito ginawa? Paano ba i-transport yung produkto? Gumamit ba siya ng biodiesel o gumamit siya ng conventional na diesel? Gumamit ba siya ng mga solar-powered na transportation? Gumamit ba siya ng renewable energy? Sa process ba nila, hindi ba sila gumagamit ng mga hazardous byproducts? Primarily, ito has something to do with yung paghugas-hugas nila. They use chemical, normally yung mga metals, when they do that, they use mercury, So yung mercury, as we all know, is actually toxic to our environment. So how about the greenhouse gases emission ng production and water conservation practices? So they call it the closed-loop manufacturing facility. Next, please. So manufacturer specific attribute. Ito naman yung mga company nagsi-CSR, nagko-corporate social responsibility, baka naman nagtatanim sila ng puno and yet they have a violation on the environmental laws of the government. Dapat as much possible meron silang environmental management system, as basic as it is. They don't need to be certified, pero dapat meron silang environmental management system. Meron din silang public environmental or social reporting procedure. Ito yata yung mga malalaking company, meron na silang reporting initiative. May declaration na sila. Dati, sinisikret nila yan. Yung mga produkto nila pala ay may mga inherent environmental impact. And then they also allow somehow the engagement of stakeholder in their process. May mga public consultation sila. And dapat wala din silang mga ongoing protest among others. So in other words, ito mako-consider din natin na ang product nila ay potential na green kung ginagawa nila itong mga. Next please. And the last one is the most scientific process by which we take a look at the life cycle perspective of the product. Titingnan natin from the design pa lang, yung pagkaka-design ba ng produkto, energy efficient, resource efficient, gumamit ng konting materials, etc. Nung ginagamit mo yung produkto, wala ba siyang nakakatipid ba siya ng kuryente? Tapos nung dinistribute yung product, gumamit ba siya ng logistical and efficient packaging materials? Nung ginagamit mo yung produkto, wala ba siyang impact sa iyong health? Hindi ba siya nakakontribute ng too much sa greenhouse gases, lalo na yung mga vehicle, baka naman yung burning efficiency nila hindi maganda and nakaka-pollute sa air. So at the same time, when the product is disposed after it served its life, hindi ba ito nakakasira sa ating environment? Halimbawa, lalo na yung mga electronic products, pag dispose mo yan, may mga may mga toxic substances yan. Or for instance, yung inyong mga bulbs na ginagamit, if you are using mercury containing lamp, pag itinapon nyo yan sa environment, as earlier mentioned doon sa video, ang mercury can actually contaminate, 1 milligram of mercury can actually contaminate 1 million liters of water, and that's disastrous to our health. So, ganun yung nangyayari nga. So, ganito yung life cycle perspective na titingnan natin sa mga produkto. So, that makes the green product green. Okay? So, ayan, may concept na tayo ng green. So, titingnan naman natin ngayon yung eco-labeling. Next. So, in the market, marami pong claim na vague, very vague, And a lot of euphemistic statement or phrases are being used to mislead the consumer kasi nga ang consumer mataas ng awareness, and if they want to contribute, maghahanap ng green products yan. But the market also are flooded with greenwashing. Case in point, itong nakalagay, nakikita nyo to 100% recycled notebook po yan. Binili ko yan sa National Bookstore that time. Kasi nga, conscious ako na, may 100% recycled notebook. But as I open the notebook, yung cover lang pala ng notebook ang 100% recycled. Isang sheet lang. Then the rest of the paper, talagang virgin pulp siya. And I could notice that because I know it because I'm a forester. Makikita ko yung strands kung siya ay recycled or not. Okay? So, in the same manner, maraming 100% eco-friendly. Hindi mo naman malaman bakit siya naging eco-friendly, Ayan. So, a lot of greenwashing actually are happening in the market. So, next, please. So, you have to beware on this, For you to engage being a sustainable consumer, dapat maging observant kayo sa mga ganito. Next, please. So, in the market, we are flooded with lots of labels, and not all labels are created equal. Somehow, with the lack of standards of being green, each and every one of them, sabi nga, yung green daw depends on the eye of the beholder. So, and that's why, next slide, please. Actually the United Nations Environment Program came up with a study that may tinatawag silang greenwashing. They coined the word greenwashing, and it says that it is the act of misleading consumer regarding the environmental practices of a company or the environmental benefits of a product or service. So these are the out of 2,000 companies, may mga green claims sila. About 700 labels are out there in the market. Next slide, please. So yan yung mga nila, they call it sin of hidden trade-off. Ano ba ibig sabihin nito? Focusing on one or two environmental impacts but ignoring other significantly more important impacts. Ang example nga nito, yung sinabi ko kanina, recycled pulp nga yung ginamit pero nag-i-emit naman ng sobrang dami ng greenhouse gases, and they use chlorine bleach, yung during the processing. Kasi ang paper pagka-recycled, mas madumi yan, kailangang linisin, i-bleach. So pag binleach, gagamit ng maraming chlorine, which is carcinogenic and cancerous to your health. So second, sin of no proof. Also known as the sin of just trust us. Some manufacturers are unable to provide proof of their environmental claims. Sasabihin lang nila, 100% recycled or recycled content without providing any proof. Tanungin mo, what makes their product environment friendly? They cannot show it. And then, meron din tinatawag na sin of vagueness. Broad, poorly defined environmental claims. Sasabihin lang, 100% natural. Ang problema, ang arsenic, toxic yun. 100% natural din yun. In the same manner that mercury is 100% natural. They are all, toxic substances and yet 100% natural. Next, please. So, sin of worshiping false label. Ito, marami itong nangyayari. Halimbawa, mga companies nag-donate kunwari sa isang NGO, WWF, or nag-tree planting, ilalagay na yung logo nung kilalang NGO na yon sa kanilang produkto and saying that parang sinasabi nila na yung kanilang produkto ay environment friendly because they do this kind of thing. So, which is wrong. Hindi connected sa product yung kanilang claim na yon. Sins of irrelevance. Maraming nagsasabi na yung may mga claim, halimbawa CFC free, talaga namang ang CFC wala na sa market. So hindi na ito dapat ikine-claim kasi 1980 pa ibinan itong CFC na ito, no? Kaya nga na-attain na natin ngayon yung ozone depletion natin, nagsara na ulit yung ating ozone, ano? Wala nang butas o lumiit na yung butas kasi 1980 pa ibinan itong CFC. Hopefully we attain the same thing sa greenhouse gases through this climate change initiative, ano? Sin of lesser two evils. O ito naman yung sabihin nila organic cigarette daw. So kahit pa organic yan, cigarette pa rin yan, nakakasira ng baga yan, no? So totoo nga, pinagrow yung tobacco organically. So sin of fibbing, misleading the consumer about the actual environmental performance of their products. False claims such as product claiming that they are certified by Energy Star. Ibig sabihin nito, yung Energy Star is a certification for energy efficient product. And yet, there was a case na nakita ko to sa crayon, sa pambata na crayon. So mali, ano, sin of fibbing. So these are the different greenwashing being practiced by some of the companies. And first, as such, next slide please. Yung International Organization for Standardization or ISO created a guidelines, ano, and defined that environmental labels and declaration must convey an information on environmental aspects of a product service to the market. Ano? Next, please. So these are some of the elements of eco-labeling or environmental labels. Ano? May mga mandatory, voluntary, may first party and third party verification. It's very important that the claim is being verified. Ano? Meron ding mga sectoral application gaya ng Forest Stewardship Council for Forestry Certification. Meron ding Marine Stewardship Council for marine products, yung mga sardinas. Coverage of issues, it can just be an information, kino-compare or leadership. Type of information transmitted, pwedeng single lang. Yung single ay halimbawa, less carbon footprint, mga ganon. Pag multiple naman, yung Green Choice Philippines is a multiple claim yan based on life cycle consideration. Next, please. So ito yung mga example, yung mandatory or voluntary, yung CCC dyan, label yan ng China, nakikita nyo yan somehow sa mga produkto ng Inchik, ano? So ito ay mandatory sa kanila. Tapos yung Green Choice Philippines naman at saka itong Ecomark, yung sa Japan, tapos yung EU Flower, pare-pareho yan based on ISO 14024. Meron ding mga single or multiple claim. Ito nga yung Energy Star or carbon footprint claim. Meron ding mga sector katulad ng Marine Stewardship Council. Yung Ecolip is a type 3 labeling yan based on life cycle assessment. And then ito naman inform, compare or leadership, yung Audubon International, it's a certification ng mga hotels sa sa Canada. So meron din mga self-declared or third party like itong ASUS na produkto ng Taiwan, yung green na yan, nakalagay dyan, ROS compliant, restriction on hazardous substances. Ang ibig sabihin nan, yung hazardous substances, wala yung produkto nilang electronic. Okay? Next. So somehow you could, ito, familiar siguro kayo dito, yung energy guide ng Department of Energy. The higher the number, the higher the efficiency of the environmental claims. Ano, mandatory ito sa DOE, lalo na sa mga appliances. Next, please. So the objective of environmental labels or eco-labeling actually is to protect the environment through sustainable consumption and production, ma-encourage yung ating mga industry to create an environmentally sound innovation in their products and services and even the use of technology. And of course, tayo namang mga consumer to be aware on the environmental issues and concern, and once we are aware, we will practice the same, ano? Magpapatronize tayo ng green products. Next, please. So, eco-labeling is actually a communication to environmental information that is credible and relevant. Very important, credible and relevant. Maraming labels sa market na hindi credible and relevant. Next, please. So, for information tool sa mga businesses, ang eco-labeling, certification, declaration ng green or ethical claims For business, it's a management tool. It can also serve as a performance control para sa kanilang supply chain management and a marketing tool as well. Somehow na-emphasize lang yung marketing tool, hindi nabibigyan ng pansin yung management and performance control for supply chain. For consumer, ito po yung shopping guide natin and could also serve as an action tool to voice out through purchasing power. No? Yung power of the first na tinatawag, yung green consumerism. So we can use eco-labeling to express and voice out our concern. And for the government, it serves as a policy tool, market incentive, and it will stimulate demand for sustainable products as well. Next, please. So in general, the ISO created three major types of eco-labeling. Yung type 1, type 2, type 3. Ang Green Choice Philippines po ay under type 1 guiding principles and procedure. Next, please. So type ang Green Choice Philippines po ay type type 1. So next please. So ayan po ang type 1 eco-labeling ay ang pinakamaraming practitioner around the world. There are about 40 plus type 1 eco-labeling around the world from each and every country. And it belongs in one organization, the Global Eco-Labeling Network. And Green Choice Philippines is actually a member, or PCEPSDI is a member of Global Eco-Labeling Network, being the practitioner of type 1 eco-labeling. Next, please. So, yan po yung Global Eco-Labeling Network from around the world. Next, please. So, as I've said, Green Choice Philippines is an ISO 14024 type 1 eco-labeling application. Next, please. Being a type 1, next. It's a voluntary third party, provides criteria for environmental preparable products, meaning we cannot award a seal of approval to a product without the criteria, and it considers the life cycle of the product, meaning multiple criteria po kami. Hindi yung program ay hindi siya nagsasabi na carbon footprint less lang siya or energy efficient for that matter, but it performs a lot of environmental performance. So multi-sector initiative in terms of being supported by government, businesses, academic and civic organization. The criteria is being done through a consultative process using life cycle perspective, and at the same time we promote the program green products, green procurement, and of course, sustainable consumption and production. Next, please. So, as I've said, it's guided by principles and procedure. Yan po yung nag-govern na principles and procedures sa Green Choice Philippines. Next, please. So, it envisions that environmentally preparable products are being produced and distributed in the country, while we intend to guide the consumer to choose products that are environmentally sound and encourage the manufacturer to practice the same, while we support as well the government's environmental policies. Next, please. So these are the main activities of Green Choice. We develop product criteria, we award the certification, and we promote and advocate for the sustainability. Next, please. So in the development of criteria, we just take a look at the issues. Next. Through the life cycle thinking, and key environmental issues are being assessed in terms of raw materials. Tinitingnan natin yung mga raw materials, yung design niya, tinitingnan din natin. Tapos yung pinroduce, itinransport, ginamit yung produkto, and then yung end of life ng product. And then from there, nilalagyan niya ng scorecard. Tinitingnan kung alin yung gagawa ng criteria. And from there, na-identify yung key environmental issues through the technical working group. Next, please. Yung environmental issues, sige pa, next please. Next. Halimbawa, katulad dito, mayroong raw materials extraction, disposal, manufacturing. Of course, yan, may air pollution. Next, please. Water pollution, toxicity, kunwari ng produkto, may solid waste na generation, nung dinispose, and from there, next. So, sa raw materials, meron bang extraction, meron bang GHG, next. Manufacturing, may GHG ba, next. Water pollution, next. Toxicity, so on and so forth. So, pag na-identify na yan, lalagyan niya ng parameters, lalagyan niya ng ceiling, lalagyan ng standard. Next. Ayan, ganyan siya. Tinitingnan. Multiple criteria. And then, it can be in a form of material extraction, safety, solid waste, generation. Next, please. So, saka ngayon lalagyan ng requirements in a form of quality, products, and environmental edge. Quality in such a way, ang minimum requirements po ng eco-labeling ng Green Choice Philippines, it has to serve its purpose. No amount of being environment-friendly products will prevail in the market without the quality of the products. Kaya po ang DTI, primarily ang Bureau of Philippine Standards, kapartner po namin sa program para mabantayan yung ating quality and safety standards ng product. Next, please. And then, ayan, lalagyan natin ngayon yan ng mga parameters based on the existing and international and local standards. Next. And then, of course, there should be a corresponding validation procedure, like it can be a third party, laboratory analysis, company records, certification, and audit, so on and so forth. Okay, so ganun po siya. No? Green Choice Philippines actually is in terms of environment, quality, and international and local initiatives. Okay, next. So ito po yung sample criteria as detailed as that. It has to be scientific, sound engineering, and measurable. Next. So currently we have 42 product and service criteria from one categories to another, and we have newly approved criteria for packaging products. Ito po yung recently approved ng National Eco-Labeling Board, yung sustainable packaging criteria. Meron na po tayong mga biodegradable packaging, and then kung hindi man yan biodegradable, we require them to do a take-back system. Next, please. So product service certification, ito naman po yung second activity ng eco-labeling. We award the certification and licensing of the product. So a company can fill up an application form. It can be done through online in our website. Then we will review it. If need be, we will do a site audit. We will do an evaluation, and there will be an approval, and then finally awarding the seal. So the certification and licensing is valid for 3 years. There will be an annual audit performance to ensure that the program, that the product being awarded the seal of approval is actually within the defined criteria. So magkakaroon siya ng annual audit. Next, please. So these are some of the products that we have awarded. Next, please. Next. Okay, so in terms of promotion and advocacy, we are actually instrumental for the development of policy on green procurement from one government to another. So that's one. With Quezon City, currently we are working with the Government Procurement Policy Board to develop standards and specification for green product procurement of the government. For the private sector, we also promote this through Green Purchasing Alliance movement. Next, please. So, as I've said, capacity building, we continuously conduct capacity building on green public procurement up until to date. Next, please. So, likewise, we work with sectoral initiative like in Green Building Council. We are part of the development of specification standards for green building materials. In forestry, currently we are working in tourism and food services as well. Next, please. So, as I've said, we have ongoing project on sustainable tourism, where the program will play a vital role, Green Choice Philippines, to eventually develop criteria and standards for hotels and tourism operations that should serve as low carbon and resource efficient operations. Next, please. So also, as I've said, we just approve and develop the criteria for sustainable packaging for the reduction of marine litters, which actually we expect that this project will have an impact in terms of reduction of solid waste, primarily of plastics in the marine environment. Next, please. So also under the Sustainable Diner Project, we develop standards for restaurants and catering services. So if you are government, you can require your caterer and restaurants to engage in the program, primarily to make it low carbon impact in terms of diner. As we all know that food is one of the major industries na nakaka-contribute sa GHG, from through the value chain, from agricultural production down to the plate, yung farm to plate market nito. Okay, next please. So we have a biennial event, and DTI is our major partner on this, yung Kalikasan GP3, promoting sustainable consumption and production, green productivity, green purchasing towards green Philippines. And hopefully we could have one after the pandemic. Ma'am Camille, sana mapag-usapan po natin ito very soon. Next please. So medyo matagal-tagal na rin po yung last. It was in 2017. O ayan, by the way, yung atin nga palang beloved president became part of the GP3. He spoke on green building. Actually, at that time, he was then a senator and authoring the green building code. So next, please. So likewise, as an incentive, we have these Philippine Green Pages way back in 2011 that we launched this. Nung una, ito po ay just a list of products and printed like a magazine, but we have an online platform on this. Next, please. You can check it in our website, and in the future, this could be a reference for you to buy green products. So currently, very limited pa po ang mga nasa listahan yan. Primarily, yung mga na-certify lang namin green products, but eventually, we will have other category for a single claim, for type 2, for type 3, and so on and so forth. So I think that's end of my presentation. Thank you very much. And if you want to know more, you can reach us in our website. You can also call us in our office as well. Thank you very much at isang makakalikasang pagbati sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, thank you for that very informative presentation, Sir Alvarez. It's really very important that we get to be oriented sa ating status of sustainability and even implication if we take this for granted. Our knowledge on the National Eco-Labeling Program is equally important, because this will allow us to take on roles to contribute to take care of planet by choosing green products. Now, before we proceed with our question and answer portion, let me inform you first na makaka-download naman po kayo ng copy ng presentation materials after you accomplish the client satisfaction form or the CSF form that will be posted in the chat box section. Short reminder lang po sa ating mga participant to stay muted unless you are addressing the speakers and moderators directly. And para mas maging interactive ang ating question and answer portion, we encourage everyone to click the raise hand button so we can call you to ask directly to our speaker. Pwede rin pong isend ang inyong question sa ating chat box. Okay, early on, we have already listed some few questions. Sir, are you okay na to accept the question?
Yes, please.
Okay.
May I have the first request, Alex?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead po.
Sir June, paano lang, there are some who are requesting the logos with the Ecolabel. Can you show it again? Siguro mas matagal. Para they can take a picture, yung products with the Ecolabel.
Okay, will do.
So they can take a picture. Ako din, I'll take a picture. Thank you.
Ayun. Yun yata, yung may lang, yung may ISO dun yata nakalagay.
Yeah, this one. Yeah. Oops.
Yan ba? Hindi yan. Yung ano lang yung nag-iisa. Ayan, yun. Ayun. Lumagpas ka na. Yan. Yan.
And the products with the Ecolabel, Sir June.
Sige. Sample lang po yung mga products. Hindi na ho na-update yan.
Can we have it in presentation? So it will be bigger. Yeah, thank you. Wait lang. Thank you. Got that.
You can visit our website po. Meron din po kaming listahan doon ng mga awarded products for everyone's reference po. www.pcepsdi.org.ph. Maraming salamat po.
Okay. Thank you for that. Sabi naman ni Sir Alvarez, sample pa lang na products to, no? Hindi pa to yung lahat, no? Entire list. Yes. For the entire list, you can visit the website. Maybe we can have it on chat para sa link na lang. Okay. And other thing is, you can also download the entire presentation ni Sir Alvarez after you fill in yung client satisfaction form natin. Ayun. I just saw yung ating link dun sa ating complete list. Okay? So, let's proceed with the question. I have here yung mga listed question na earlier. So, I'll be reading the first ones. What's the premium in choosing products with Ecolabel, sir?
Premium meaning what's the buy-in? In other words, so one is that if you are really into green consumerism, so when you're choosing the product that's being certified by Green Choice Philippines, being a third-party certification, we can assert and we can guarantee you that that product performs environmental preference. That's one. Second, in terms of quality performance of the product, following the requirements of our Philippine national standards and the prevailing standards of quality in the market, we can guarantee you as well that the product performs its highest best in terms of quality in the market as compared to their competitors. So that's what that's actually the buy-in for buying green products certified by Green Choice Philippines. Being a third party, we can guarantee you that the company is not doing greenwashing for that matter. So as earlier presented, maraming environmental claims, maraming labels being attached in the product, and not all labels are created equal, as I've said.
Okay, thank you, sir. Second question, what are the different eco-friendly packaging and labeling materials for processed and food products? Under our packaging materials criteria, we kind of limit our engagement in terms of working on biodegradability. Instead, we require actually the company to do a take back system for that matter. So for some reasons, may mga limitation pa rin when it comes to it requires further research by the institution. So yung mga packaging materials related on food packaging, pag sinabi nating primary packaging, ito yung nakadikit talaga doon sa pagkain. So meron tayong mga packaging na single layer. A lot of this food packaging kasi mostly they use 3 layers. And these 3 layers, that makes it an environment friendly. And perhaps Camille, are you in online ba? Engaged? My colleague here, which is actually on top of the specific
criteria for packaging for food can actually expound on this. Naka-online ka ba? So, yeah, we just recently developed the standards. For the secondary packaging, yes, we have that can be applied also for food. But for primarily packaging, we just kind of limit the engagement of the biodegradable aspect, but because it needs to test the safetiness and the quality of the product as well.
Yes po. Hello everyone. So my name is Kim po. I'm working with the project for the sustainable packaging project. So we have developed, as Sir Jun mentioned po, we have developed the packaging products criteria. So we have subcategories po for biodegradable, compostable, packaging with recycled content, packaging that is refillable, and packaging that is recyclable. So, yun po, it can be applied for primary, tertiary, and secondary packaging. And then if you want to see po the content of the criteria, you can also visit us on our website. And then you can also view the criteria po there. And then ongoing na rin po yung applications if you are a producer or supplier of packaging products here in the Philippines.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, Ma'am Camille and Sir June, for answering the question. We have another question here. Where can consumers get more information on the list of certified sustainable product and services? I think earlier we already posted yung website and link.
Website, yeah.
Yes. So, andito na yung list ng information of sustainable products and services. Does it include services din ba, Sir June?
Yes. For the services, we have a limited criteria pa, but we have other process of engaging company with us. Kasi nga, if you notice, we only have 42 product categories and service criteria and services. Kasi hindi siya ganun kadali. Case in point, itong sustainable packaging, bago namin na-develop yung criteria, it took us 1.5 years. No? So that's why if you notice, for such a long time, for 42 pa lang yung nadidevelop na criteria kasi hindi siya ganun kadaling gawin. A minimum of 6 months ang pag-process ng development ng criteria. On the other hand, if a company would want to engage with us and they are confident enough for their environmental claims of their product, they will undergo our process. We call it the panel review process. Under the panel review process, we can assess the product. We invited experts in particular with that product and whatever claim that they have, and provided that it's proven, it will serve as our interim criteria for that product under the panel review process. So ganun yung nangyayari sa amin.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next question, can you briefly discuss po what greenwashing is? And how can consumers avoid brands, products, or services who practice this?
Well, as I have discussed in the presentation, the United Nations Environment Program categorized 7 sins of greenwashing, and you can refer it to our presentation. And likewise, for you to avoid the greenwashing of the companies, you have to be very observant on the environmental claim. As earlier mentioned and presented, dapat nabe-verify yung kanilang mga environmental claim. Kung hindi yan nabe-verify, hindi yan, ibig sabihin, greenwashing yan. Second, if it's a third-party certification, mas reliable yon. Like Green Choice Philippines is one of those. Third, the claim must be connected to the products or services being purchased. Dapat aware kayo. And to do that, you have to capacitate also yourself, get more information on the products, and at the same time on the inherent environmental issues connected to the products and services. Yun po yun. But if you're talking about the list of the company, we're not doing that. So we are that's not our mandate. Hindi po yun yung mandate ng programa. Ang programa ay nagbibigay ng incentive sa mga company na mag-i-improve ng kanilang processes, ng kanilang product on an environmentally preparable based on our agreed criteria while we inform the consumer on this preparedness of their product.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, sir. Now we have a question from Marlon Dixon and Sabun. Sa pang-araw-araw naming buhay, paano kami makakatulong sa mundo na makaiwas sa global warming?
Okay po, napaka-simple po, no? Sa pang-araw-araw nating pamumuhay. Now, yung basic, yung green procurement, bumili lamang tayo kung kailangan, kung kailangan natin at naaayon sa ating pangangailangan. So, pangalawa, yung binibili natin, tingnan natin, meron ba itong environmental performance? So, yun, tingnan po natin yun. Pangatlo, tingnan din natin yung company. Yung company ba nakaka-contribute, yung halimbawa, yung mga manufacturer ba nitong produkto na to, nakaka-contribute ba ito sa kanilang sa pag-improve ng environment ng ating lipunan. Tingnan din po natin yun. O baka naman may violation, baka naman mamaya isa sila sa naging bahagi ng pagguho ng lupa dyan sa inyong lugar. Tingnan po niyo. Huwag niyo pong tangkilikin yun, yung mga produkto na yun. Pang-apat po, i-educate po natin yung sarili natin sa impact ng global warming. At mag-participate po tayo, mag-volunteer po tayo sa mga programa katulad ng mga itong ginaganap na seminar na ito, mag-attend po tayo na ito, libre naman po ito, pwede natin itong ma-access anytime, mag-participate po tayo sa mga tree planting, so on and so forth. And another very important thing I'd like to share with you na kung maaari po, kahit minsan lang sa isang linggo mag-vegetarian po tayo, kahit isang meal lang, kasi po being a vegetarian, maliit po ang carbon footprint. Mas maliit ang naiko-contribute na CO2 emission kung basic po ang kakainin nyo halaman. Kasi ang human being naman po, tayo po, we're created in terms of our digestive system to eat vegetables, to eat herbs. Hindi po kumain ng mga hayop na matataas ang carbon footprint. So yon, malaking bagay na po yon. And then mag-conserve po tayo ng tubig and maging minimalist po tayo sa ating mga ginagamit. Although, naman natin, na-recognize naman natin na ang mga tao, yung ating creativity and somehow we want to have more dress, more Kung kaya lang po natin maging minimalist, the better po. Kasi as earlier presented, mas maraming extraction ng materials ang nangyayari pagka patronize tayo ng mga un-environmentally preparable product.
Yes, it's really important that we take on rules then kasi it's one planet and we have to take care for it talaga. Okay, moving on with another question. How can consumers easily recognize certified sustainable product and services? I think this is already answered na din, so let's move on for another question. How are products awarded with the Ecolabel monitor?
Ecolabel monitor? You mean how we monitor it? As presented, yung license, we give the license for 3 years and on an annual basis, we do an audit doon sa kanilang production at sa kanilang performance ng product based on our criteria. Yun yung procedure, yun yung pag-monitor.
Right, thank you, sir. Consumers usually stereotype or tag sustainable product as premium products and that this product costs extra. How can we encourage more consumers to purchase sustainable products?
Okay. I beg to disagree that being green is much more expensive. In fact, if you notice doon sa ginagawa nating proseso, dapat less nga ang inputs ng materials, less ang resources, less ang gamit ng electricity, less ang water sa pag-produce ng product. Therefore, less ang puhunan. So what makes it expensive? It's a marketing. Hindi po yun yung ng certification. Now, it becoming somehow at this point in time, it became some sort of being a fad rather than But there are products like yung mga sinertify naming tissue paper is actually the cheapest in the market. So if you notice yung iba naman like the detergent, the surf, we certify it. It's very competitive naman yung yung price nila, and yet environmentally preparable in terms of absence of toxic substances, in terms of sustainable packaging and so on and so forth. So but to some extent yung mga products, lalo na yung mga innovative products, yon medyo expensive talaga yon because they acquire technology. So it's your choice, it's the choice of the consumer, how do you pay for the sustainability of our future, of our generation, so to speak. But technically ang mga products hindi dapat ibinebenta ng expensive than the regular one because in effect less po lahat ng kanilang materials and resources used.
Okay, thank you for that, sir. Another question, what are the incentives for the companies of having Green Choice seal or approval on their product?
Well, I would say that the program is a market-based instrument. The market will provide you the incentive. Another thing, though, the government is actually trying to provide an incentive under the Green Jobs Act. It's on our way. Inaayos pa po under the Climate Change Commission that the company that will engage in Green Choice Philippines could be provided an incentives. Ginagawa pa lang po nila yung guidelines. Inabutan lang ng pandemic. At the same time that the government is actually gearing towards sustainable public procurement, and as we all know that government has a 12 to 20% GDP, and it could be an incentive, market incentive as well, that for those companies that will engage in eco-labeling.
Okay, thank you for that, sir. Is the license of 3 years renewable?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So same
License is 3 years and renewable. Well, the requirements provided that the criteria have not been changed, i-apply pa rin po yun. I-apply pa rin.
That's very clear. Thank you, sir. After the license has ended after 3 years, how many companies renew their license for Green Choice?
So far, most of the companies naman renewed their license. Like case in point, Unilever is still active since we awarded the seal of approval. So eco yung yung tissue paper, the same. Nag-engage naman po sila. Nag-engage naman. Actually, if probably it has something to do with related to the cost. Yun hindi kasi na-discuss pala yung cost dito, kasi nga ang ating audience ay general consumer, hindi naman industry, hindi naman mag-a-apply. So but in terms of cost, we charge as minimum as 10,000 and maximum of 500,000, depende po sa laki noong produkto at ng kumpanya. So but mostly yung mga nag-engage sa amin ay SMEs, mga SMEs ang nai-engage.
Right, thank you for that clarification, sir. What are the products that can be applied for Green Choice seal of approval, sir?
Currently, we have 42 product categories as earlier presented. They can check it and access in our website, but offhand, we develop criteria primarily for government procurement program. Kaya karamihan doon yung CSEs na tinatawag, common supplies and equipment. We have non-CSEs, mga electronic product. We have construction materials as well, like paint, cement, fiber, board, etc. So kung hindi kayo magpo-fall doon sa mga 42 product criteria that we have developed, you can also apply in other process. We call it the panel review process. Mas magastos lang po kasi you have to subsidize the cost of doing the meetings. Kasi unlike that we have the criteria, we will just process immediately your paper. Ito, ipoprove nyo pa sa amin kung totoo yung claim ninyo. I-verify namin yan. And we hire expert. That's kayo magbabayad nun.
Okay, thank you for that, sir. I've checked, it's already 11:32. Last call na po sa mga gusto pang magtanong from the consumer or private sectors. Otherwise, we will close the session na po. Anyone from the chat box? Let me check the chat box. None. Hearing none, I think we will be closing our session now. Again, thank you, Sir Alvarez, for answering all the questions. Lastly, would you like to give a parting message to our participants?
Unang-una, salamat sa DTI for inviting us on here, and I'd like to encourage the participants that on our daily basis we contribute to the sustainable consumption and production by practicing, ito sabi nila ang mga consumer daw merong tinatawag na 4Cs or 5Cs. They are committed. So mag-commit po tayo sana, and they know what to do and do it most of the time. And so sana gawin natin yon at magkaroon tayo ng awareness, more of awareness in terms of environmental performance, in terms of sustainability by using our power of the purse. If we buy green products, in effect, we contribute to the environmental sustainability. Yun po. Maraming salamat.
Okay. Again, thank you, Sir June Alvarez, the President and Executive Director of the Philippine Center for Environmental Protection and Sustainable Development Incorporated, or the PCEPSDI. Muli, maraming salamat sa ating very capable speaker ngayong umaga, at mula po sa Consumer Protection Group, maraming salamat po sa ating participant na nakasama natin ngayong umaga. Huwag niyo po kaming kalimutang samahan kaming muli sa aming mga susunod na webinar. Our announcement will be posted in our social media accounts. For more update, please like, follow, and subscribe to our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube accounts, DTI Consumer Care and DTI Philippines. This has been Alex Carandang. Thank you very much, everyone, and still, please stay safe.
Recording stopped. Ating mamamayang Pilipino, para iwas daya dapat wais at alisto. Mainam maging mapagmatsyag at mapanuri tayo. Palakasin ang boses ng ating mga konsumer. Dapat tama bawat presyo at serbisyo. Produktong pasado, lalo ang mga pangunahing bilihin. Ang kalidad ng mga produkto at serbisyo ay pangalagaan ng lahat. Tayo ay panalo. Layunin ng DTI ito. Ipatupad Price Act 7581, Consumer Act 7394, Product Standards 4109, for Consumer Care at iba pa, tayang 1384. Ipalaganap karapatan at tungkulin, kaalamang tama sa consumer ibahagi. Tulay sa kaunlaran, kalakalan ay palakasin. Ito ang pagbabago para sa ikabubuti natin. Dapat tapat bawat presyo at serbisyo. Produktong pasado, lalo ang mga pangunahing bilihin. Ang kalidad ng mga produkto at serbisyo ay pangalagaan ng lahat. Tayo ay panalo. Layunin ng DTI ito. Ipatupad Price Act 7581, Consumer Act 7394, Product Standards 4109, for Consumer Care at iba pa, tayang 1384. Dapat tama, dapat tapat, mula sa DTI ito.